I am Samantha, speaking on behalf of animals being mistreated and used for human entertainment. So, as you know, there's things like circuses and zoos and aquariums and sports where animals are taken out of their homes into captivity and, just used for human entertainment, and in the process are abused and mistreated. So I believe that is unjust for the animals and it can be avoided. So with circuses, the animals are performing tricks because they're scared of what will happen if they don't. So there's these bull hooks that are for elephants, and they're about this big. They weigh as much as a baseball bat, and there's a pointy metal hook on the end, and they're used as weapons to make the animals do what the circus performers want them to do. So also when circuses are traveling, they're in those carts when they're traveling, and so they'll have elephants, maybe 2 in there, and so they're in that confined space, and there's nowhere for them to move around. They're chained up, and they have to pee, poop, and eat and sleep all in the same spot, and they can't go anywhere for however long it takes to get from one location to the other. So, eventually the animals are going to snap, so it's really dangerous. There's been, different instances on where elephants have broken out of zoos or something, or circuses, and are running through the streets, and then they just get killed because people can't control them. So there's also pseudo sanctuaries, which are the ones that say that they're for rescue animals and stuff, but really they're not actually for rescue animals, and they're not going to be taken back into the wild. They're there for entertainment. So many of them are actually breeded, and there's dealers that take the animals from one place to another. And same with the drive-through safaris. They look a little better and they look more appealing to people who don't know, but it's really the same thing. So they'll breed a lot of the animals for babies because that attracts humans, but once they're grown up, humans don't really care anymore. So then they're shipped away, and they end up in warehouses or on auctions, or even to slaughterhouses or hunting ranches. So also horse-drawn carriages, that is also a problem that you wouldn't really think too much about. The horses can actually get severe leg problems and respiratory problems from all the walking and the pulling, all that weight, and walking on the hard surfaces. And horses are really sensitive and skittish animals, and so there's been countless incidents where carriages have been hit by cars, and horses have died, people have been severely injured, and all this can be avoided by not going on horse-drawn carriages. So animal actors is another big one. So with apes, they're in captivity, and when they have a baby, their mother is tricked and sedated and taken away, so that way they can take the baby away. And apes live to be 50, 60 years old, but in the entertainment industry, they're only used until they're about 6 or 8 because they get too strong for the humans to be able to control them. So after all their physical and psychological abusement during those 6 to 8 years, they're taken into captivity, and then they're there for the rest of their lives. So from those 8 years of being abused, and then from 8 years until they pass, they're just stuck, in this small cage where they can't really do anything. Most of the time they're fed dog food and rotten produce. And aquariums are really the same thing. People, I feel don't think too much about aquariums because they, you don't really hear underwater animals. A lot of people say, you know, they're just fish or something. But, you know, like wild orcas and dolphins naturally swim miles, like every day. And so you see a lot of animals going crazy in aquariums because all they can do is swim around in circles over and over again. So, and a lot of the times they're denied the opportunity to engage in natural behaviors. And most of the time they die before their natural lifespan. So, this one guy, Mitchell, said that keeping orcas in tanks is equivalent to a person being blindfolded in a jail cell. So you can imagine how psychologically that would mess you up. And then so captive orcas, their median age is usually like 9 years old. But with wild orcas, like there's one that they have tagged. Her name's Granny, and she's 100 years old right now. So obviously being captive is shortening their life tremendously. So 44 dolphins died in the U.S. SeaWorld from trauma or intestinal problems, and none of them were from old age. So then there's like sports, like bullfighting or cockfighting, dog racing, horse racing. Like all these sports are made up, and you don't really think about the animals or whatever. You're thinking about, you know, who's gonna win the next horse race or something. But like horses are drugged, and then, you know, they die really early. Or these dog fights and rooster fights, they have to fight until death. So obviously they don't do that in the wild. Like they have to do that for humans. And then bullfighting, I didn't realize how terrible that was. So the bull enters the arena, and then there's somebody that comes in and they basically like throw like spears at its back until it starts to bleed, and it'll continue to go around in circles and get dizzy. Then the next one comes in and like keeps doing it, but this time the spears are like colorful for the human eye. And then the next guy comes in and finishes him off. And if he doesn't die, they still drag him away because he'll be paralyzed. So then he'll just eventually die from laying there. So like all these different things used for animal entertainment can really be avoided by, you know, you don't need to go to the zoo. Honestly, I'd like to go to Africa. So if you want to see animal, go to Africa or something, you know. Or you can go to the ocean. Like, you're not going to see a shark, but, I mean, do you really need to see a shark? I don't think so. Circuses are so much fun even when there's not animals there. Honestly, you see how sad these animals are when you're at the circus. So it's really unnecessary. And if you do these things, then, you know, people won't need to use animals anymore, and they'll realize that they're not needed for human entertainment, because we can do that on our own. Thank you.